Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this Ramadan series by Sapience Institute. The verse we have, in fact, for today is a really powerful verse. And in fact, not just because of the verse itself, but the context of the verse. This is from Surah Al-Hujurat in the Quran, ayah number 13, revealed in Medina. What makes it so crucial for all of us to understand, let's look at the context first, in fact. The verses before speak about the fact that, O you who believe, Allah says, let not one group of people, believing men, mock another group, because it might be that the latter group is better than the first group, and nor should women mock other women. It might be the latter group is better than the first group. So Allah is telling us therefore that we might in fact in life struggle with a sense of asserting value to people. Maybe we get it wrong, maybe we're focusing on the superficial alone and not looking at the broader context, the bigger context around the person's life and existence. In this ayah, Allah begins by saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, O civilization, O humanity, O everybody. Inna khalaqnakum min dhakrin wa untha. We create from a male and a female. Allah made us into a male and a female. The whole gender identity discourse, in fact, is settled here because Allah made us into a male and a female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا, and made you into nations and tribes. Right? We have these distinctions in life, whether it's the Maasai of East Africa, or the Hadza of Tanzania, or the Chambri of Papua New Guinea, or the Hutu and Tutsi of Rwanda. That's fine. But that's not the main thing, in fact, Allah says. That's not the main thing you focus on. You don't see a person just because of how he is in life, or his ethnicity, or color of his skin, or where he's living, or his social class. All of these things are superficial in light of the biggest thing Allah wants us to think about. Remember, the whole purpose of Quran is to reawaken our fitrah. It's to reawaken something, to realign us, reconnect us where Allah wants us to be. And Allah then says, In academically, the most noble of you with Allah are those who have the most taqwa out of you. That's powerful. Because if you think about the fact that all of us are kind of in this mode in our fasting, and Allah says fasting is for you, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so perhaps you would have taqwa. All of us are trying to achieve this, and Allah is saying the most noble of you to Allah are those who have the most of this thing, taqwa. Have the most reverence of Allah, love of Allah, fear of Allah, trust, reliance, hope in Allah. All of these things are taqwa, meaning having that sense of self protection and prevention from bad things. That's taqwa. So Allah is saying, out of all things, consider that. A person's status in life is not to be defined only simply by his social code, where he is and what he's doing. No, it's the most important thing with Allah is known only by Allah. That's the key thing. And Allah ends the ayah by saying, Inna Allah alimun khabir. Allah is all-knowing, and Allah is aware of what you are and what you do and everything else. So if only Allah is aware of that, then who are we to erect these walls and barriers that Allah doesn't erect? Who are we to scale people if Allah doesn't use that as a scale? We shouldn't do that. Right? And so if you think about prophetic society in Medina, this I was of course revealed in Medina. If you think about prophetic society in Medina, you have all kinds of people. You have the tall, the short, the able and disabled. You have the wealthy and the poor, all kinds of people. But how did the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, manage that group of people, and with what kind of social and prophetic character did he manage them? Look, for example, a few examples for us to think about. You had the example of Julaybib. Julaybib was a man who was he was small in appearance. He didn't look very good either. People kind of found him to be kind of not very good to hang around with, and had some peculiarities about him. But it's amazing the way that the Prophet instilled within his companions, his community, that sense of love and trust for one another based upon the most important thing, which is their iman, their taqwa. That's the most important thing, right? Not other things are just superficial stuff. And so in the very famous hadith, when the Prophet marries him off, and this is a person who said, oh, Mr. of Allah, I don't even have a friend in life, let alone an intimate partner in life, a married partner. And the Prophet married him off. And then when he was martyred, in the hadith it says that the Prophet came to his body, and the Prophet says, هَذَا مِنِّي وَأَنَا مِنْهُ, 3 times, this man is from me and I am from him. And then the narrator says he placed him on his arms, and he had no pillow on that day except the arms of the Prophet ﷺ in the narration. A beautiful, beautiful kind of measure of verbalizing, actualizing of empathy towards him. What about Zahir, the man who used to live from outside Medina, and he used to come in, and he was very poor. He used to sell some small stuff on his mat in the streets. And the Prophet once came behind him, and the Prophet placed his hands over his eyes, a moment of merriment, gesture of merriment. And the Prophet said, who will buy this servant, this slave? And he realized it was the Prophet of Allah when he smelt his beautiful scent from his blessed hands, and he says, well, if I'm going to be sold, then I won't be a good merchandise for anybody. And the Prophet of Allah says, وَلَكِنْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ لَسْتَ بِكَذْبٍ, but you're not cheap with Allah. The point is the scaling is very different. And that's the whole thing for us, in fact, to remember. Therefore, Ramadan should be a reminder for all of us that we're looking for something bigger in life, and we should see people, therefore, in this bigger paradigm of what's great in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make all of us aware of that and alert to that. Allahumma ameen.